Assalamu alaikum. Peace be with you. I'm your brother in faith, Shabir Ally, speaking to you from the Muslim Media Hub, saying Ramadan Mubarak. Today we're dealing with the 13th key to unlocking the meanings of the Quran. The key that we're looking at today is understanding the Quran in the light of the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Now, this is one of the principles that are commonly mentioned in books of introduction to the study of the Quran, and in particular the tafsir of the Quran, or the exegesis, the interpretation of the Quran. For example, in a book written by Ibn Taymiyyah, the famous medieval scholar, he wrote a book entitled Al-Muqaddimah fi Usul al-Tafsir, the introduction to the principles of tafsir. That book has been translated into English as well and is widely acknowledged and acclaimed in the Arabic-speaking world. Many commentaries on it, many YouTube videos on it, and so on. For our take on this, this is often listed as one of the key principles that we interpret the Quran in the light of the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. It might be stated variously by other people, maybe in the light of Hadith, for example, but I didn't say Hadith because not all Hadiths are reliable. And even those who say Hadith, they mean the reliable Hadith. But I say Sunnah of the Prophet, peace be upon him, because with Hadith, you might have mention of the Prophet, peace be upon him, said something or did something on one occasion, whether that's authentic or not. But with the Sunnah, we have or not so much a focus on, you can say, on one narrative that says that the Prophet did this, but we have a very broad outline, not only of the life of the Prophet, peace be upon him, as in his seerah, as we described in a previous episode, but now more to what was his general practice. So a hadith may relate that the Prophet, peace be upon him, said something or did something on one particular occasion, but by the Sunnah, we mean that which he was regularly doing, that which was characteristic of him. And so by this Sunnah, then, we are looking at a broader principle than just simply something said or done on one particular occasion. If we had occasions on which the Prophet, peace be upon him, really said something about the meaning of the Quran, that would be great, excellent. But a lot of times what we have in terms of commentary on the Quran is not what the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, specifically said, but what companions of the Prophet, peace be upon him, said. And we'll look at that as a key as well for the moment, looking at what the Prophet, peace be upon him, said regarding the explanation of verses of the Quran. We find only a few statements. Nonetheless, this is in principle what we look at when we're going to look at the meaning of the Quran. We want to know, how did the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, live this Quran? How did he act upon the Quran? Because we can run away with a meaning on a tangent, but it has no connection with the life of the Prophet, peace be upon him. So we wonder, how did this meaning miss the Prophet, peace be upon him? So he didn't even act on this. Whatever the Quran was saying, he must have acted on it. So Imam Shafi'i, one of the great scholars in early Islam, who is the eponym behind what is called the Shafi'i school of Islamic jurisprudence, said that to know the Sunnah, you know the Quran, because if you know the Quran, you know what the Prophet, peace be upon him, was doing. Because when the Quran tells us to do something, you can know that the Prophet, peace be upon him, must have done it. That would be a natural presumption, because he would be the first one to obey what God was telling us through him. If you know what the Quran says, you know what the Prophet, peace be upon him, did. So now, by the flip side of this, that if we know what the Prophet, peace be upon him, did, and especially what he said, then we know the meanings of the Quran, because what he said and did is really what the Quran was all about. Now, the Quran itself places the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in the important role of expositor of the Quran. And a lot of people miss this. Some people think, we'll just interpret the Quran by ourselves. God's message to me, I don't need the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. But of course we do. The Quran in the 16th chapter, in the 44th verse, says to the Prophet, peace be upon him, we've revealed the Quran to you لِتُبَيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ مَا نُزِلَ إِلَيْهِمْ, so that you may explain to humankind that which has been revealed to them. So the purpose of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, being sent by God, or the purpose of God revealing the Quran to him, is so that he could explain the book to us. Otherwise, God could have revealed the book in a different way, maybe inspired us with some teachings. Maybe God could have caused the book to drop as a book from the skies, at least theoretically. There are many causes and effects and interlocking and interrelated systems in our physical world that it's hard to imagine a book falling out of thin air. But nonetheless, in principle, God could have revealed the Quran in umpteen different ways, but he chose this particular method to reveal it into the heart of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, so that then he would demonstrate to us how to live that book in his present reality, so that we can translate that into our present reality, and know what it means to be a follower of the Quran. So the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, had that responsibility. It is also mentioned in the Quran that the Prophet, peace be upon him, was given the responsibility to not only recite the book and to preach it to people, but also to explain it to them. كما أرسلنا فيكم رسولا منكم يتلو عليكم آياتنا ويزكيكم ويعلمكم الكتاب والحكمة. That he will teach you the book and the wisdom. So his job also includes not only reciting the book, but also teaching us the book and the wisdom. Now, in the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, naturally his companions came up to him. They asked him questions. They might have said, okay, this verse of the Quran, it's a bit obscure to us. You explain to us what it means. And the Prophet, peace be upon him, explained. And his explanations are found in the great commentaries on the Quran. We will do well to read the great commentaries on the Quran in order to find those narratives. More so, and to the point, if we read the books of Hadith, especially the chapters that deal with tafsir, so for example, that means exegesis of the Quran, then we will find what is reported that the Prophet, peace be upon him, said. So for example, Al-Bukhari, in his collection, a 9-volume collection in the Arabic English version of Hadith, you find a whole chapter that's called Bab in Arabic. Bab is their mention of chapter. So or Kitab even. Kitab, which means a book, but a book of tafsir. So Kitab al-Tafsir in Sahih al-Bukhari, that will give you a long list of hadiths in which it is reported that some commentary on the Quran was given either by the Prophet, peace be upon him, or by the early Muslims. So that's well worth reading. So too in the book of Tirmidhi, you have, that is the Jamia of Imam Tirmidhi, a collection of hadith. You have references to explanations of the Quran. We need to know all of these references, but on the whole, remember that we have to place the Quran within the lifetime of the Prophet, peace be upon him. So if we know the kinds of things that he was doing, then we have a sense of what the Quran means. Not everything reported about the Prophet, peace be upon him, is dependable, so we have to be on guard lest some people misinterpreted the Quran, and then they try to defend their misinterpretation by saying that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, acting like in this way or that way. And so, for example, in a previous key, we talked about the supposed verse of stoning, that there was a verse of the Quran that said that the adulterer should be stoned. Since there is no such verse in the Quran, one needs to support that idea that the adulterers have to be stoned, and people supported it not only by saying that there was a verse of the Quran once revealed but now repealed, but they also made reference to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, sanctioning stoning within his lifetime. Either the Prophet, peace be upon him, sanctioned that before the verse of Surah 24, verse number 2 was revealed to give us the prescription of lashing for adultery, in which case the lashing cancels the practice of stoning, or somebody just made a mistake in reporting this incident from the life of the Prophet, peace be upon him. In short, we should put all of the principles in place. All of these keys are needed to support each other and unlock the meanings of the Quran. One verse is unlocked by this key, the other verse is unlocked by this key, but we need all of the keys together. So join me tomorrow as we look at another key. One of the keys is the interpretations of the Quran given by the earliest Muslims, including the companions of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Each day of Ramadan, a different key. So I'm your brother in faith, Shabir Ally, signing off by saying, peace be with you, assalamu alaikum, speaking to you from the Muslim Media Hub. Join me again tomorrow for another key to unlocking the meanings of the Quran. This Ramadan, we're making history together. Behind me is the building you helped us purchase for the sake of Allah for the establishment of the Muslim Media Hub. We've started filming our television program here called Let the Quran Speak, and we're training the youth to produce other such shows and videos for social media so that we can present the message of Islam to the wider world. This Ramadan, you can help us to raise $100,000 for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. please go to our website, muslimmediahub.com. May Allah bless you and all of your loved ones this Ramadan and forever. I'm your brother in faith, Shabir Ally, saying Assalamu alaikum, peace be with you, and Ramadan Mubarak.